I've had quite a number of companies say to me, well, I don't know how the tariffs in the US or from the US are going to affect my business. Can you explain to me so I can go back to my clients and say, this is how potentially it might affect you?
In simple terms, a tariff is essentially an additional fee or a levy added to the cost of a good by a government, specifically when importing into a country. So for example, if I was buying this t-shirt for £10 usually, and there was a 10% tariff, I'd be paying £11 when it comes to the country. Governments do this for a variety of reasons, often to protect certain industries. But as we're seeing right now, tariffs can be used in a trade war capacity, often a very reactionary measure. Historically, tariffs were used for things like agriculture to protect labour. So, for example, in America, increasing the competitiveness of US domestic agricultural products to decrease reliability overseas. However, it's very rare that they happen so quickly, they change so often and so substantial. What we have to be aware of when it comes to tariffs is that the lag effect that can impact. So, for example, if you're importing something from China, it could take a couple of months to get here. That means that the deal you made, or that when you purchased the order or the product, the cost might actually change by the time it arrives in your country.
Oh, so they could go up or down then?
100%. And this can be quite destructive to a business, especially a small business. So, for example, let's say you spend £1 million on a container of products from China, right? It takes 3 months to get to the USA or the UK in this context. That could then be £2 million worth. So what does it mean for your business? It means you have to somehow find more cash or a line of credit or some sort of debt financing to pay for the stock. You suddenly have to find an extra £1 million worth of profit in your business by decreasing costs or adding it to the consumer. What we're going to see is something called creative destruction by an economist called Joseph Schumpeter, essentially meaning that one door closes, another opens. What I mean by that is, let's say in the UK, it's no longer viable for us to import from China to the UK and pay a tariff, and then export to the USA and then pay a tariff. Maybe we stop exporting to the USA and explore different markets. Another way of looking at it is the relationship we have with other countries internationally. So one of our big trade partners would be America or China, and a tariff could make that unviable going forward and change how businesses operate or how they even plan or succession plan in the future.
Oh, so is this where the country of origin comes in?
100%. I believe that the dilemma when it comes to country of origin is at what point does it become, let's say, a UK-based product. A famous example is the iPhone from America, Apple, designed in California, made in China. I suppose what's going to happen with tariffs going forward is that supply chain, the pressure is essentially going to be passed on to the consumer perhaps, because at what point is it no longer a Chinese product? At what point is it a UK product or an American product? A good example would be drop shipping. Many dropshippers might have a company here in the UK whereby they order products from China and sell around the world. Their business could disappear overnight from a tariff because it's a Chinese product in the eyes of the law, so to speak.
And this is where a business plan really helps, because what that would do then is, I mean, if you take COVID as an example, who saw COVID coming? You know, nobody planned for COVID. And now I think post-COVID we're in an age where we have to start planning and realise we have to start planning for every eventuality.
Bit of a wake-up call.
Bit of a wake-up call, yeah.
The UK as a whole, and especially our region, unfortunately, has seen a decline in manufacturing or manufacturing sovereignty, so to speak. We have been dependent on overseas manufacturing massively. We are seeing some investment here. For example, there's always a lot of talk about electric vehicle factory manufacturing, but how many years has that been talking about? I suppose one of the problems I have with the tariff structure, how short-term it can be, because why would you want to invest substantial sums of money into a manufacturing facility in Coventry, for example? Why would you want to invest millions of pounds in training staff, specialist engineers, investing in the machinery, investing in infrastructure, only for the next day that business becoming viable? But equally, what we're seeing with electric vehicles, with I think is it 2030, the shift from
something like that,
fuel to EV, creating new markets, but artificially. Is that sustainable? Who knows? And I suppose it's the dilemma of doing what's best for the country now versus what's best in the future.
I think what's good with the region, you know, the Black Country and the West Midlands as a whole, is because of our expertise in things like the automotive industry. We've got those skills here already, and as a region, you know, we're quite adaptable and agile. to changing. So we've already got the skills and expertise here. It's just going, right, okay, we need to sort of regroup and refocus. And whilst yet, you know, we're not going to be sort of a big car manufacturing region again, but what we're very good at is that ingenuity about getting new technologies sort of off the ground.
100%. It's been quite motivating to see investment into the youth, essentially, in Dudley, Black Country Dudley Marshes, South City College in Wolverhampton, investing in engineering, investing in manufacturing, jobs which previously, I believe, as a country we looked down upon because we thought, oh, we'll export this overseas, but now realising there's a value to it, maybe greater than we realise, and perhaps the tariffs are a blessing in disguise, a wake-up call in that respect.
Yeah, definitely. If you had a crystal ball and you had a business sitting in front of you now, what would you say to them that they need to be aware of going forward on how tariffs can affect them on both exporting their goods and importing goods for what they manufacture?
Well, if we look towards, let's say, the relationship between the UK and America, the changes that are happening right now in terms of tariff might not necessarily be seen for a couple of months. So, for example, a product could be manufactured or produced today and still be sold for the price it's supposed to be, but that pricing might change in 3 months down the line. So you can look ahead and maybe expect or be prepared. Equally looking in terms of the supply chain itself, so let's say, for example, the price is being increased, the chances are it's going to be passed on to the consumer, but maybe to other parts of the supply chain, maybe your cost of production will increase because of the types of goods you're importing or the raw materials and so on and so forth. I think that in terms of the crystal ball mentality, it's hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So often businesses, especially in our region, are, I want to say, running a little bit close, but they may make assumptions that things will stay the same. I mean, we can't do that.
No,
so
businesses like certainty.
The increase of price or the increase of cost of tariffs is actually usually passed directly to the consumer by increasing prices, but due to, frankly, the substantial size of these tariffs, frankly, 100%, 150% in some cases, that's not really possible. There's situations whereby something was shipped from China, you spent, I don't know, £10,000. By the time it arrives to the UK, it costs £20,000, and you have to change everything in your business. What else can businesses do apart from just passing the cost to the consumer?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because a lot of businesses don't realise that there's programs out there like Made Smarter that can help businesses become more leaner and operate more efficiently. There's also things such as the Investment Readiness Programme, which can help look at your costs. I would always recommend that a business speaks to their local business support advisor as well, to see what other support's out there. You've got things like the Help to Grow programme as well, which will equip you with all the skills that you need as a business owner to sort of take that strategic view on where you want your business to be in the future. So yes, you know, if you're exporting to the US, is that really the right place in the future for you to be? You know, taking into account everything that's happening, don't be afraid to sort of just take that step back and explore those other opportunities.